no. But I do it's one of those
be my life.
I love that too. I love that Aaliyah Moore is that type of person. I love that Aaliyah Moore is looking to play the villain. She's gone through a lot at this university trying to get back to this point. And now she's getting a chance to play in a Sweet 16 opportunity where things are starting to really, really open up for this team. It is a good deal for Texas. This is an exciting time for Texas. And if you're in a Texas women's basketball fan, you've enjoyed the ride the entire time. If you hadn't been a fan in this moment, you have to make sure that things are going the right way. So these young ladies are working hard. Coach Vic Schaefer working to make sure that everything is taken care of. No stone unturned. And that is exactly what he's been able to do to get this team ready to take on Gonzaga. We'll hear a little bit more from Vic Schaefer in just a little bit. We'll also hear from Madison Booker. My man Corey Mose asked her what type of music does she try to listen to on the plane ride, and you'd be shocked. Well, at least I was. I don't know. Some people may not be shocked. At least I was shocked when I heard that before. So it is a fun week of Texas athletics. My man Craig Way and I were on the call last night for Texas baseball. Unfortunate loss for the Texas baseball team. But the good thing about baseball, you get an opportunity to play again here in the next day because this is a short week for Texas baseball. Instead of playing starting on Friday, they're going to start on Thursday in Manhattan, Kansas, as they take on the top team in the Big 12 right now, the Kansas State Wildcats. Those series will start on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to everything that is going on. We got Round Rock Express baseball that you will hear starting Friday right here on AM 1300 The Zone. I will be at the ballpark pretty much all day, hanging out, trying to get some interviews and making sure that I bring you Round Rock Express so you can get ready for that. And of course, we'll be previewing the women's basketball as they take on the Sweet 16, take on Gonzaga in the Sweet 16 as they travel out to the great Northwest. When we come back, I want to continue this conversation that I was having yesterday. When you start to think of the Dallas Cowboys and what are they going to do? Well, they made a decision yesterday, and it's about Dak Prescott. And I'm going to give you the poll question, and I'm going to let you know about that as well. But is this a farewell tour for one Dakota Rain Prescott or Rain Dakota Prescott? We'll talk about it when we come back right here on the Hard Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. I wanted to address a little something in the room. Right now, if you sit and you think about this, Dak Prescott, I'll get into Dakota Prescott here in just a second because there's so much that we have to unwind and unravel when it comes to talking about the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. But every single day, I've stood on this hill representing and trying to bring it for you about the Dallas Cowboys, about Dak Prescott, about the misrepresentation of signing players, not signing players, going after people in free agency, making some adjustments, doing some different things when it comes to running a football team. I'm not in charge of that, right? I'm not, I don't, it's other people's money. Let's just say that. But when you start to look across the NFL and the spending that was made and the changes that was made, the comparison in which we give, I'm just going to say Dallas Cowboys, is a lot to do with the star on the helmet. I've heard multiple people across the nation talk about the Cowboys with such negative connotations, which is fair because they kind of bring it upon themselves. But here's the thing that really drives me nuts. You look at Dak Prescott. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's been an All-Pro. He was just second in MVP voting last year. He's got over 30,000 career passing yards. He's on pace to either be the number 1 or number 2 all-time quarterback in the Cowboys' history in passing yards. And this can all happen by the end of the season if he stays healthy. He's second all-time for the Dallas Cowboys in total touchdowns by a quarterback. But with all that being said, everybody's looking at him and basically thinking that he's going to walk from the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to let Dak Prescott walk. And I get curious to what people truly think when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and this situation. It's funny to me because if you sit back and you think about where the Cowboys were before they got Tony Romo, think about all the quarterbacks that the Cowboys went through, all the misery, all the 8-8s, all those moments that every single weekend you were about to lose your mind if you were a Dallas Cowboy fan. If you're not a Dallas Cowboy fan, you were just laughing the entire time because it was jokes to you. But you start to think about who Dak Prescott is, Dakota. He's one heck of a quarterback. He may not be Patrick Mahomes, but guess what, folks? There's only one Patrick Mahomes. He's not Tom Brady. There's only one Tom Brady. You look at, let's just go with the MVP, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, people doubted him. He's got 2 MVPs. And you'll say, Dak doesn't have any. Understood. How many playoff wins did he have up until this year? How many times did you go and say, oh, he just doesn't have it, we need to move him out of quarterback position? He was the MVP. His team wins. They play good defense. They build things around him to be able to get to that point. Still came up short. Still didn't finish it off. But guess what? It's Dak Prescott. He's terrible. He was second to Lamar Jackson in the MVP. So my point to most of this, and I'll get to what's going on, I said the Cowboys have not ruled out a Dak Prescott extension, but they haven't walked over there. So they've mutually agreed to play out this year as of right now. Some say we might hear from a deal, hear a deal made here pretty shortly. Once they get into training camp, we might hear, okay, he's balanced out everything. He's got everybody signed. This is the extension that Dak is going to sign. Because you would be a fool to think that somebody is just going to come in and be able to run this team, deal with Jerry, deal with being the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback, and take all the blame for the shortcomings of this organization. We've been talking about them not spending money on free agencies because they go all in. This is what they said. They said that they were going all in. And now we're sitting here trying to figure out what are the Cowboys going to do with their quarterback. Their quarterback. It's not Dak. Dak Prescott, for those that are wondering, was not a first-round pick. So what he's been able to achieve has been successful. He probably wasn't even their guy. He was supposed to be a developmental guy, right? And then he comes in and takes over this team, and now he has them in the playoffs every single year, winning 12, 13 games. He had 1 year where he was awful. He came back and became the number 2 in the MVP category. So when you're talking about getting rid of your starting quarterback and bringing in someone else, just tell me that you want to rebuild. Just say that. I know that this is going to be one of those deals where you sit and you think about this team and you say, well, what are they going to do with them? Jerry Jones has really messed this stuff up by not drafting around him. And now you go out and get Trey Lance, and you extend him. And then you say, yeah, this is where he's going to be because he's going to be the backup. I'm glad we got a good backup, but is he that good? We still don't know. And so if that's the way and the play that they want to go with, of being able to say, all right, let's give Trey Lance this opportunity. You're rebuilding because you haven't put anything around him. Let's think about this. Let's think about the Dallas Cowboys and their expectations this year. Think about this. Dak doesn't have a new contract. There was no free agency moves. Mike McCarthy is on his last year of his contract. They've got Mike Zimmer on a 1-year deal. Leighton Vander Esch just retired. Tony Pollard, gone. Jonathan Hankins, who was supposed to be your run stopper, gone. Tyron Smith, gone. Dorrance Armstrong, gone. Tyler Biadasz, Gallup, Dexter Fowler, Gallimore, all gone. Cooper Rush is on the last. I'm not even going to go there with that. No Parsons extension yet. No Lamb extension yet. And you only have 7 draft picks. But guess what? It's Dak Prescott's fault. That is why I'm telling you, be careful what you wish for. Because as bad as some of you think Dak Prescott is, look across the NFL. Look across it. There's only been a few people that have been able to win a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, he's in a good position. You know why? Look at everything that he has around him. Look at everything that he has around him. And you're right, JB. That letting the old line go is the worst thing that you can possibly do. Worse, because you're not replacing anything. So the question, our poll question, get over to AM 1300 The Zone on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And will Dak Prescott be the Dallas Cowboys quarterback 25-26? Will he be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys in 25-26? I don't know. I truly don't know. And it's sad because I've seen what we had before. I played baseball with Chad Hutchinson and Drew Henson. You start looking around and going back to that time, my Sundays have been somewhat good. They've been pleasurable. Yeah, we've lost some games I thought we shouldn't have, and we won some that I didn't think we even had a chance. But that's sports. But the simple fact still remains. What are you going to do if you let Dak Prescott go? What is your backup plan? I just went through the list of all the people that are gone from this squad. Think about that. All of these people are gone from the squad. Pollard, Hankins, Tyron Smith, Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz, Michael Gallup, Dexter Fowler, Neville Gallimore. Dante Fowler, not Dexter. Dexter's a baseball player. Baseball's on my mind, folks. Sorry about that. No Parsons extension, no CeeDee Lamb extension, and you only have 7 draft picks this year, Dallas Cowboys fans. And by the way, you did nothing worth talking about in free agency. But guess what? It's Dak Prescott's fault. And that's why you're going to sit here and think about it all offseason long. What if Dak is gone? What if Dak holds out? What if Dak says, I'm not playing on this last year of this deal? I know they said we got mutual agreement, but is the mutual agreement that they've already decided what the money's going to be for Dak and they want to hold out? That could possibly be true. But again, who would be your pick if the Dallas Cowboys, who do not draft quarterbacks regularly, go look at the Cowboys' draft history? None of them have been near the top. Tony Romo was a free agent. And if you listen to Jerry Jones, Romo was a miracle. Yeah, he was. Because nobody saw that, even though he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. I bet a lot of you didn't realize that either. Tony Romo is a College Football Hall of Famer. Yeah, that really happened. So be careful what you ask for, folks. The Cowboys, even though they're in a tough way right now, the division is still there for the taking. Philadelphia's made some moves. They've made some really good moves this offseason. The Commanders, new coaching staff, they got to figure that out. They've got some former Dallas Cowboys on there. And maybe Jerry's talking about the fact that those guys are at the end of the road. Okay, this might be it. But don't let the Washington Commanders go out there and beat you with your players, because you'll never hear the end of that. And you still might not hear the end of it because it's the Cowboys that went to the East Coast. So there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. But let's just not look at our guy, Dak Prescott, and just kind of throw him off to the side, because dude has made some plays for you and kept you around and kept you relevant. And my biggest takeaway from all of this, if Dak Prescott put up all those numbers and did what he did in Minnesota, would you care as much? I don't believe you would, because he's been better than Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins keeps getting paid. But nobody's talking about that. Dak Prescott is 5-1 in his career against Kirk Cousins. Nobody's talking about that. But everybody believes that Kirk Cousins is the answer for everything. He's the answer of the test. I don't believe he is. Dak Prescott, keep your head up, homie, like Pac used to say. Coming up next, we got our man Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman. He was at the press conference with Vic Schaefer yesterday. He also knows a little bit about Texas baseball as well, and Texas football. So we'll get a plethora of answers from our man Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman as he comes back to you next here on the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. This is how we do it. That's right here on the Hard Knocks Life, way back Wednesday edition of the Hard Knocks Life. And joining us as he does every Wednesday at 7:40 a.m. From Danny Davis from the Austin American Statesman. You can follow him on Twitter at _Danny Davis. What's up, Danny? How you doing, buddy? I like that. I like that. I appreciate you putting that out there like that because we don't have to call it way back because we some old school brothers. We don't listen to all that nonsense that these kids are listening to now. I kind of have to because I have a 15-year-old, so they're always playing some stuff. I always tell him to keep his headphones on because I don't want to dive all the way into it. But I wanted to talk to you, Danny. You were at the presser yesterday for Coach Vic Schaefer, and I believe you were the one that asked him about that trip and what the Utah coach was talking about happened to them in Idaho. For full disclosure, Danny's went to school in the Montana area. And so I'm sure you have some stories of your own about that area. But what did you think of Vic Schaefer's response to that question?
Musician host. That was a inexcusable job by the NCAA to put it there, and an inexcusable job by Gonzaga as a host. And unfortunately, those young women.
Right. Yeah, it's very disappointing situation, and as you talked about, for any players that have had to go through that, or any people that had to go through that, it is an awful way of going through those types of situations, especially in that part of the country. But Danny, let's get back to the basketball court, the hardwood. Coach Vic Schaefer seems to be very excited about his team in this situation, but the one thing he did mention is that he has to go on the road, being a number one seed, and does have to travel out that far for those Gonzaga fans. It's going to be like a home game for them. But he said they're battle tested. They've been on the road before, and they expect to go out there and play well. What are some of the things that you took away from the past weekend in those two wins against Drexel and Alabama? Yeah, we're talking to Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman. You can follow him on Twitter at _ Danny Davis. Does great work for the Austin American Statesman, covering men's and women's athletics. And Danny, we talked about Aaliyah Moore during the show earlier this week. And what does she mean to this team? Battling back from those injuries, she brings in a level of toughness that this team has been needing for quite some time.
I have an idea, but I don't know if it'll cut his audio.
Very, very talented player. So, Danny, let's switch it over to football. Get a chance to meet with Steve Sarkisian this week, today after practice, actually. But then you also have to look at the fact, too, of Monday. He seemed like he was in a different type of mood. I don't know if practice went as smooth as he liked. I know that he's been excited about the way things have gone so far. But what are you taking on the temperature of Coach Sark? Because he's talking about thermometers and thermostats.
All right, we got 30 seconds. 30.
There he is, my man, Danny Davis. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at _ Danny Davis. Until next week, my friend. Well, I'll talk to you before that. But next time I'll talk to you on the air will be next week. Appreciate you, Danny. All right. There he is, Danny Davis. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversations. We got to get into Texas baseball and what happened last night, right here on the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. Oh, I'm going to read that thing too.
What?
Weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m. Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. Want to send a message to Mike Hardball Hardge? Text the word Texas, followed by your message to 81530. Standard data and message rates may apply. Now back to the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone.
Shout out to my man Danny Davis for joining us as he always does on Wednesdays. I appreciate him taking the time. But here's something that I need you to do. The Texas, the iHeart Country Music Festival, iHeart Country Festival, presented by Capital One, returns to Austin May the 4th. You still have a chance to get some tickets. This is your last chance. I'm telling you all week. You need to make sure that you get your chance to get these tickets. The show is almost sold out for only a limited number of tickets remaining. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. This is your time. As you know, Jason Aldean, Jelly Roll, Old Dominion, Lady A, Riley Green, Ashley McBride, the brothers Osborne, and Walker Hayes will all be performing. But don't miss out on this opportunity. As I said, the 2024 iHeart Country Festival, presented by Capital One, May the 4th. You still have time. Make sure you get your tickets. I know people have been hitting me up, so here's your opportunity to get those tickets. Last night, the Texas men's baseball team ended up taking that loss. Texas baseball took a loss 4-1 to the Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders, and the big blow came in the third inning when Christian Smith Johnson hit a 3-run home run to take the lead against the Texas Longhorns. It was in the top of the second. Sorry about that. Top of the second, he got a big 3-run home run. And I was on the call last night with one Craig Way. And let's just say after the game, Coach David Pierce was not in a very good mood. Now, what I mean by that is, he wasn't like losing it, but you can tell that the frustration was there. But this is the deal. Anybody can get beat at any time in baseball, in any sport, really. To be quite honest with you, when you start to think about these teams and what they were able to do, we got a chance to talk to the head coach of the Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders, my good friend Scott Malone, and he just wanted his guys to go out there and play hard. They don't have the big players like Texas does. They don't throw as hard as Texas players, but they went out there and they competed, and that's the thing. You can't never underestimate your opponent in these types of situations. I don't believe that Texas underestimated them. I just thought that the way that the Islanders went out and played yesterday was a little bit better, and Texas now goes on the road as they get ready to take on Kansas State Wildcats starting tomorrow in Manhattan, Kansas. We'll still have David Pierce on the show tomorrow, so make sure you tune in 8:40, and we'll be able to talk to him and ask him some questions about his expectations moving forward. When we come back, that's right, we're coming right back. I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on with Vic Schaefer, Madison Booker, and, of course, Major League Baseball opening day is right around the corner. We're going to continue these conversations right here on the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
With Mike Hardball Hardge.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad you're tuning in for hour number 2 of the Hardge Knocks Life right here on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. I am Mike Hardball Hardge, and I appreciate y'all tuning in. If you want to be a part of the show, all you have to do is send a text message, the word Texas, followed by your message to 81530. That's right. Text the word Texas, followed by your message. I've been looking at the Hip Cricket message board, and the thing about it is, guys, when you type the word Texas, continue writing your message, because I see Texas a lot on there, but the messages are no longer following. So please, if you're going to do that, make sure you type the word Texas followed by your message directly on that same line that you're saying the word Texas. But speaking of Texas, the Texas women are about to make that trip back up to Portland. We talked to Danny Davis in the first or 740, and he was talking about the Texas women and what they're about to do when they get up north in that Gonzaga matchup. And Vic Schaefer was asked about Gonzaga and how good is this basketball team? Have you been able to scout them? Because Vic has played them before, but the University of Texas have never played Gonzaga, which I find kind of interesting because both of these teams have had some good teams in the past. But Vic Schaefer talked about playing Gonzaga.
The last couple of days, they average about 12 threes a game. They made 12 last night. They average about 10, and kids all over the floor that really shoot it. They've got a great inside player, obviously super well coached. I think their coach is up there with Naismith. She's one of the 4 finalists for 50 years.
So he's got some talent that he's going to be going up against, and obviously Vic Schaefer has talent on his team. But here's one of the fun things about Madison Booker. Madison Booker, by the way, she was named to another All-American team. Shocking, in case you were wondering about that. She is one of the best players and recognized as one of the best players in the nation. She continues to show her witty side, her fun side, and her growing up side. So my man Corey Mose of KView asked Madison Booker about the type of music that she plays when she gets ready to go on an airplane, because everybody has their different vibe. We just talked to Danny Davis, and Danny was talking about, I don't call it Way Back Wednesday. I just call it Wednesday because I don't listen to the new stuff. Well, it's a different age and time, and a lot of these players listen to different things to get themselves going. But what do you listen to when you get on an airplane and you just want to relax?
I go more like Taylor Swift type on the airplane. Yeah, some very calm. Of course, like Heartbreak. I mean, it's so sad, but her Heartbreak here really does replay all stuff.
That was outstanding. That was outstanding. My man Corey Mose does a great job of getting these kids to open up and just talk freely about what's going on. But you start to see her personality. Now, if you listen to some of the other players and what they've been able to go through, they let you know, yeah, she's fun, she's growing up, but she is still a leader on this squad. And they found ways to get things going. So it's been very impressive when you start to think about what's going on with this basketball team. How are things starting to look when you break it all down? And do they have a chance? I believe they do have a chance. Now, obviously, this Gonzaga team, as you continue to go deep into these tournaments, a lot of teams are a lot better than some of the teams you face. They're definitely going to be better than the Drexel, and they're definitely going to be better than Alabama. But Texas could be better, too, during this time with the effort that they've been putting together and the time that they have been practicing, and the coaching staff. We got to give the coaching staff a lot more credit. And what I mean by that is scouting your opponent. When you scout your opponent and you break down each detail. And again, my son got a chance to play college basketball for one of the best coaches in the history of college athletics, Lon Reisman, and his staff worked very hard at the little things about another team, how to play them, what play when they do this is what they're looking to do. Now, the discipline between men and women, totally different. Women are going to do what their job is, what is expected, where this is what I asked you to do, this is what they do. Men, we freelance so much and try to think that we know exactly where the play is going to be. Sometimes we do. Sometimes you can anticipate certain things, but paying attention to the details is something that we lack, but not there. Coach Vic Schaefer and his staff have done an unbelievable job with this team, and I look forward to it. We'll continue conversations a little bit more tomorrow about this as we get closer to the matchup. We got more NCAA March Madness that is happening, but we have opening day. That's right, folks. Opening day is just around the corner, and I cannot wait for Major League Baseball. Tomorrow, everything kicks off, and it's an exciting, exciting time. But I wanted to bring this up because this is something I've been talking about for quite some time. The Major League Baseball and what Wyatt Langford, the new outfielder for the Texas Rangers, drafted last year, 4th overall, is now getting he's going to be on the opening day roster. He'll be in the opening day lineup. As a matter of fact, they played at Globe Life last night, and he's already hit doubles in that stadium. And so I'm excited for him. I'm excited for this baseball team. But I want you to think about this meteoric rise by this young man. There's been a few guys that have played less games in the in the minor leagues before they got to the big leagues. And Wyatt Langford is going to be one of those guys that played in the minor leagues for a very short period of time. Not a lot of them are high school kids. Most of them are going to college first and getting that opportunity and getting better as they go. But here's some names that played in the minor leagues that Wyatt Langford kind of passed in the shortest amount of time to get to the big leagues. Bo Jackson played 78 games in the minors before he was called up in 1987 by the Kansas City Royals. Ozzie Smith played 68 games in the minor leagues before he was called up to the San Diego Padres in 1978. Will the Thrill Clark, played 65 minor league games before he was called up to San Francisco in 86. Robin Yount played 64 minor league games before he was called up in 74. Paul Molitor, they were both for the Brewers, by the way. Paul Molitor and Robin Yount played 64 games, one in 74, the other one in 78. Dave Winfield played 56 games, called up to the big leagues by San Diego in 1974. Andrew Vaughn played 55 games in the minor leagues in 2021. Nolan Shanchel, 51 games, Anaheim Angels, 2024. Wyatt Langford, 44 games in the minor leagues, and he'll be on the opening day roster this year for the Texas Rangers. John Olerud only played 6 games in the minor leagues in 1990 before he was called up to the Toronto Blue Jays. Matter of fact, he was in my 1990 draft with me. He only played 6 games. And Pete Incaviglia, Mr. Massive Power, Biceps, Home Run King, only played 0 games in the minor leagues. He signed, went straight to the big leagues in 1986. So what Wyatt Langford puts himself in elite company when you start to think of some of those names that I just went. Some of them are Hall of Famers. I'm not saying he's going into the Hall of Fame, but for that young man to have his opportunity to play in the big leagues after just being in the minor leagues for 44 games, really, really impressive. When we come back, we're going to look at win totals on the NFL. That's right. Vegas, they're going to jump on that all the way. And D'Amico Ryans has some things he wants to talk about when it comes to the Houston Texans and their meteoric rise after being terrible for a few years. We'll be right back here on the Hard Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. It's impressive when you start to break it all down. But you start looking at how are they doing it? Well, they have a young quarterback. When Dak Prescott was the young quarterback, everybody was like, oh, Cowboys need to make some major moves. They're going to be able to do it. CJ Stroud, as lovely as he did last year and the numbers that he put up being a rookie, DeMeco Ryans did some things around him. Now, if you were a person that thought that he was going to go and ascend the way that he did, kudos for you. I thought he was going to be pretty good too, but not to the level in which he was this past year. I thought the knock on him was crazy, the way that people were talking about him, because they were trying to make it that he wasn't a good quarterback. Well, you're wrong. And that's why I've been saying evaluating the quarterback position is the hardest thing to do. It's easy for everyone to say he's a bust. It's easy for everybody to say he's a superstar. So easy after they play. But the projections are what they are, and they make it very difficult for you to be able to do that. So it's a really rough situation when you start to break it all down. So in those moments, you start looking around and you're saying, okay, is this guy really that good? Well, CJ Stroud seems to be. And DeMeco Ryans is looking for him to make an even bigger step in year number 2.
I see from this all season really just a huge now coming in. He doesn't have to relearn the playbook. He knows what we're asking him to do. Now he can be more honed in on the details of his mechanics, all those small things that he can get better as a quarterback. He really jumped off in his first year with his leadership, although he's a young player. The leadership that he brings to the locker room really stood out. And now, as he continues to grow, a lot of film is out here on him now.
And that's important for him. And with those projections and those thought processes, numbers start to change on a team. You know, the over-under for the Texans are not what it was this year. The over-under was low for the Texans last year. They end up getting into the playoffs. You got a rookie of the year on the offensive and defensive side. So they've done some really cool things. They've even re-signed some people. And I know a lot of people are missing Dalton Schultz in Dallas, but I think Jake Ferguson is just going to be a better version of Dalton Schultz, and he's proven to be that already. But for the Texans, being able to secure a safety net for CJ Stroud was something that needed to be happening, and that's why they re-signed Dalton Schultz.
Very sure handed. He's a safety blanket for CJ. Whenever he gets in trouble, you know, Dalton is there.
That's good stuff right there. I mean, that's good for Dalton. That's good for CJ Stroud and what they're trying to build there. So it's a interesting situation for all of these things. So check this out. So coming into the season, the NFL, and this is by DraftKings Sportsbook, they've left out their projections. They let out their projections to talk about how many wins, how many losses for each team. And the funny part about it all is now certain teams are looked at in a different light than what they were last year. Maybe it's the coaching staff, maybe it's the changes, maybe it's the draft. There's a lot that has happened within the NFL. So I'm going to go from bottom to top. The over-unders. 4.5 wins. 4.5 wins, and now they're playing, 17, 18 games now? It's ridiculous. 4.5 wins in the NFL where there's supposed to be parity and you're supposed to be like talent. 4.5 wins. New England Patriots and the Carolina Panthers. Interesting. New coach, second-year quarterback. New coach for the Patriots, second-year quarterback in Bryce Young. Jacoby Brissett going back to New England. I'll take the over on that for New England. I don't know about Carolina yet. Over under wins 5.5. Denver Broncos and the Tennessee Titans. I am not a fan of Sean Payton, in case you were wondering. If you hadn't heard this show before, newsflash, not a fan of Sean Payton. And I hope that they don't win 5.5 games, or they don't win 5 games. Sorry, Kenny. Sorry, bro. I don't like your team. 6.5 wins, Arizona, Las Vegas Raiders, Minnesota, New York Giants. I don't know. I got to think this one through. I got to think all of these through. I'm just giving you what the numbers are. 7.5 wins, New Orleans Saints, Seattle Seahawks, Washington Commanders. 8.5 wins. The Chicago Bears, they have at 8.5 wins. They don't even have a quarterback. Like, what are you talking about? You still have a coaching staff that doesn't know what they're going to do. So you're going to tell me that the Chicago Bears in that NFC North division against Minnesota, against Detroit, and against Green Bay is at 8.5 wins? Taking the under on that one. Cleveland, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Chargers, Rams, Pittsburgh, and Tampa, 8.5 wins. Pittsburgh is the one that I'm really intrigued by because I believe in Russell Wilson. I know a lot of people don't. Najee Harris looks like he's in the best shape of his life. They're going to make a play for some wide receivers. They brought in Cordell Patterson, punt return. They're going to bring in players. I'll take Pittsburgh in the over. The Houston Texans, team we were just talking about, 9.5 wins. Them and the Jets. The Jets believe that they have Aaron Rodgers back, but they still have the drama of Aaron Rodgers being back. So I don't know how that's going to play out either, but it will be interesting. 9.5 wins. The New York Jets and the Houston Texans. 10.5 wins. Because the almighty Kirk Cousins, who I'm not hating on, I believe he's going to help that team a lot because Kirk Cousins, he does win regular season games. 10.5 wins. Buffalo, 10.5. Cincinnati, Dallas, Detroit, Green Bay, Miami, and Philadelphia, all sitting at 10.5 wins. I think 3 of those teams get over 10.5, and I think the rest of them do not. And the elite of the elite, the ones that everybody's been looking at that they believe are ready for prime time, the Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs, and the San Francisco 49ers are all sitting at 11.5. It's a big number for all of those teams. I don't know if, you can't ever bet against Patrick Mahomes because he's what he's been able to do, because a lot of people didn't think he was going to get to the Super Bowl except for him. He believed in it. He thought that was going to be the move for him, and that's what he's been able to do. So you start looking at all of these teams and you're believing in what is going on. And those win-loss totals are going to be kind of outrageous when you start to break it down. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, let's go there real quick. Texans, I believe that they might be able to get to the number. Dallas Cowboys, I truly do not know. This is a team that is going to be backed into a corner. I went through all the numbers for Dak Prescott. I went through all the people that they lost. I didn't tell you who they replaced them with because they haven't. So for the Cowboys, I don't know if they're shopping at Dollar General, that Alfie store, because they're not at H-E-B, bro. They're not at Whole Foods. Right now, they are on bargain shopping. And there's nothing wrong with bargain shopping if you get the right fit. But sometimes it looks like it's going to be a little bit tougher because you start looking at the East, NFC East. The Giants, they got them at 6.5 wins. I don't think the Giants even get close to that. I look at the Washington Commanders. They're at 7.5. New staff, new team, new personalities, ready to go. Ready to go. Then you have the Cowboys, sitting there looking at you in the face at 10.5. Not sure how I feel about that. Not sure how I feel about that. So it's Washington at 7.5. The Philadelphia Eagles at 10.5. The Giants at 6.5, and the Cowboys at 10.5. So you got some mediocrity in that NFC East. And remember, nobody wins the NFC East in back-to-back years. No one wins the NFC East in back-to-back years. So it is going to be a wild, wild football ride. And I don't know about the Cowboys because I'm a Cowboys fan, and that just doesn't sit right with me because they haven't made any moves. When we come back, we're going to talk about all of these NFL changes, rules changes. Are you with these rules, like from kickoffs to hip tackles, scheduling games on Christmas Day? That's supposed to be our time to get ready for basketball season. The NFL says, I'm the captain now. You watch my games all the time. Right here on the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
Texas, followed by your message to 81530. Standard data and message rates may apply. Now back to the Hardge Knocks Live on Sports Radio AM 1300, The Zone.
Mike Hardball Hardge here. My man Khalil holding it down for me behind the board, doing his thing. I wanted to get into this conversation because the NFL continues to intrigue me. That's what they want. They want to intrigue everyone. But the way that they're going about this is kind of one of those situations to where you're like, what are they doing? Because they always want to talk about player safety. They always want to bring that up. We're looking to make things better for the players. So a couple days ago, they enforced a new rule with no hip tackles, where you can't grab the guy from behind and try to pull him down and kind of rodeo steer him down to the ground, because it was causing a lot of injuries. The hip tackle was always it is something that is kind of crazy when you start to think about it. Well, then you start looking at kickoff return, coverage, and how these things are going to play out. So they had a vote. I guess it was 29-3. And for them, the rule passed 29-3. Only the Raiders, the 49ers, and the Packers voted against the new kickoff rule. And maybe it's just because they don't understand it, or maybe they just didn't want to do it, or maybe it's because they're old school and they want to see people running down or watch people kick it out of the back of the end zone. That can happen still. People can still kick the ball out of the back of the end zone. But they implemented a rule that looks like the rule from the XFL. They made this thing happen. And so of the 22 players that are on the full field of play, 21 of them will be in the receiving team territory. So the only person that's standing back is the kicker. The kicker is the only one that is sitting in the back waiting for the ball to come. So here's how it breaks down. The kicker will set up the ball on his own 35-yard line, and after kicking it, he won't be able to cross midfield until the ball is in play. The ball will be considered in play when the returner catches it, or if the ball hits the ground in the landing zone, or if the ball is kicked out of the end zone. As for the receiving team, most of the receiving team will be at the 35-yard line. What does that mean? The receiving team has a 5-yard setup zone that runs from its own 30 to its 35-yard line. 7 players from the receiving team must have 1 foot on the 35-yard line. And the receiving team can also have 2 or more players set up in the end zone, or set up in that zone area in which they're doing. But they can't be touching the 35-yard line. Those 2 players can be lined out outside the hashes. The receiving team can't have 2 returners. The receiving team can put 1 or 2 returners back on the field of football, but if they decide that they're going to run it out, nobody can move until the ball is touched. So everybody is set up. You can't do anything, but the space between each other is so small. So my question is on this: how many kickoff returns are we going to have? And how many kickoff returns for touchdowns are we going to have? Because if this is the small area, the one question that I'm going to have, how often are they going to call holding? Because this going to happen. When you're that close to each other and they're trying to get to your guy that has the football, it is going to be a bunch of holding calls that are going to either need to be made or going to be missed. Then you start looking at no fair catches. So either you're going to let the ball go or you're going to catch it, but you cannot fair catch it. Any team can receive the ball within the 20-yard line. So if they're going to be pooch kicking it, that might be one solution to it all. But you have to be able to receive the ball and try to figure it out. A touchback, the ball will be at the 40-yard line. Used to be at the 35. Now they'll move it up in the 40. They can do it a touchback at the 30-yard line. There's so many different things and rules that are in place for this. But this is one of the best, I guess you would say, as far as the collisions. They don't want people getting hurt. They don't want you getting knocked out. So they have this at this moment to where it may not happen. To address the lowest kickoff return rate in NFL history during the 2023 season and the concern for players' health and safety, this is why they're coming up with this. I think it's crazy. I understand, but I can't wait to see it in effect because I don't think it's going to be as fun as people thinking that it's going to be. It could be. If you got some explosive guys that can get to a corner and make some things happen, because think about it. They're already there. Your only line of defense is going to be the kicker. And if you can't outrun the kicker, that's on you. You're probably going to get cut after that anyway. So it's going to be an interesting move when you start to think about how they're going to do this. Another move in which they have talked about was the Hall of Fame game and games during the week. Like, what? What do you mean games during the week? Well, to open up the season, the NFL will have the Hall of Fame game will be taking place Thursday, August the 1st, 8 o'clock, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. You can get tickets now and be ready to go there. So actually, you can purchase your tickets on April the 12th. But you start to break this down and you start thinking about, okay, how is this going to play out? Now, the Hall of Fame game, that's nothing. That's just what it is. And you start to think about the season. You're getting closer. Okay, Hall of Fame game lets you know camp's going to open up a little bit sooner for some of these other teams. But then the news came out that they are planning to play a game in Brazil. Yeah, Brazil. For what? The game's already global. The game is already global. Are you trying to take a team to Brazil and make that their home? No. The game is already global. They don't need to be in those types of cities because now you're taking a team and traveling them all across the world and then expecting them to come back and play football, jet lag, all the moves that are happening. It's going to be an interesting take on all of this. But now they're also talking about having games on Christmas Day. What? They're going to play Christmas Day, a doubleheader on Christmas on a Wednesday? That's basketball time, folks. That's basketball time. Do it after basketball on Christmas Day. If they're going to play on Christmas Day, why not do it regular Thursday night game? Duh. Makes too much sense. But guess what? The NFL, being greedy, the big machine that wants to take over the world. And now you're sitting there looking at it and saying, okay, well, at least I got my football on Christmas Day. But yeah, now what are you going to be doing? Now what's going to happen after that? Because you're going to put yourself in a situation to where these guys, again, if it's all about player safety, this is what the word is. Are they going to have the week off after that as soon as they play on Wednesday? Are they not going to play again until that next Sunday? If you're doing that, okay, I'll accept that. But what about the previous Sunday? They can't come back and play on a Sunday and then come play on Christmas Day. That's 3 days. They're in a car wreck every single game. So I'm confused on what it is. Or is it going to be the teams that are coming off of a bye the previous week, coming to play that Wednesday, and then don't play again till the following Sunday? So you're giving them 2 byes? Like, how is this going to work in a positive light? I truly have no idea how this is going to play out. I truly have no idea. But what I do know is the NFL is king, and it is always going to be because we cannot stop talking about it. The draft is right around the corner. We'll have some draft information for you where we're going to be for the draft. But most importantly, the NFL is trying to make major moves every single day. And that is what they've been able to do. When we come back, we're going to close out the show and send you over to Dan Patrick. I'm going to give you the results of this Dak Prescott poll, but I also want to know what your thoughts are about the things that are happening in the NFL. All you got to do is hit me up, 81530. Text the word Texas, followed by your message to 81530. Standard data and message rates may apply. One more segment here on the Hard Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone presents the
American statesman, coming on and talking to us about what he's seen from Vic Schaefer, the team, and what the expectations are as they make their way to Portland and trying to take on Gonzaga, which is going to be a home game for Portland just because of the way that everything is set up there. It's kind of crazy how you're the number one seed and you got to travel to Oregon. Make sure you get your iHeart Country 2024 iHeart Country Festival tickets. Go to Ticketmaster.com. May the 4th, better get ready. May the 4th be with you if you're going to be over there trying to go and see Jelly Roll, because he's going to be in the mix over there as well. We talked a lot about the Dak Prescott situation and how the Cowboys are talking about just letting it all play out. I believe there may be a deal done already, and they're just not talking about it. They want to be in the news, as they always are, making some things happen that way. So we'll see how that plays out. But I also wanted to talk about this. Deion Sanders. We're going to get into Deion Sanders and more of what's going on in Colorado. They're starting practice as well across the Big 12, the SEC. Everybody's at practice. But I want you to hear this motivation and how Deion presents it to everybody else. Got to always have Prime in there. Everything is starting to come together. There's some conversation around his son and Travis Hunter that we will get into a little bit later. Tomorrow, we will have Coach Steve Sarkisian audio as he meets with the media this morning after their practices. They're back on the field. I think he's going to let everybody go home for Easter weekend. So I don't know how many more days they're going to have a practice before they come back as we start to head into the spring game on April the 20th. And we'll have some more draft coverage as well. So we'll continue all that. But let's not forget, tomorrow is opening day. Tomorrow is opening day for the major leagues. We're going to take a look around the major leagues tomorrow and figure out who's going to win the AL West, because obviously Texas Rangers, Houston Astros, you have the Anaheim Angels, and of course the Seattle Mariners, all vying for that position. The last two champions have come out the West. One of them have been the Cowboys. One of them has been the Astros, and another one has been the Texas Rangers. So there's good baseball being played in the West and in the state of Texas as they get ready to kick off opening day tomorrow. We'll also look at some of the ticket prices across Major League Baseball. Some of them on opening day are pretty expensive. Some of them, as you could probably guess, you could probably just walk into the game and ask them if you can get in that bat too. They might just let you, because some of these prices are really, really low. I want to thank my man Khalil for producing the show, getting better and better every day as we try to get better every day. And that's what I want to make sure of. Make sure you go over to the podcast page where you can download all the past podcasts and see exactly what we've been talking about. You need to catch up. Tell 5 friends, and everybody can be friends. Make sure you remember this. Don't believe everything you see, because even salt looks like sugar. Peace. Have a great day.